Hello friends, in today's video we are going to discuss UPSC CDS 2020 examination, that is Combined Defense Services examination, geography questions. In this CDS series what we are trying to do is we are trying to identify what kind of questions, what type of questions from which areas UPSC is asking for other examinations. By identifying the areas where UPSC is asking other examinations, we are trying to identify how UPSC might ask in the civil services preliminary examination, because most of the cases the questions and area replicate. So we already discussed the history questions which UPSC asked, ancient, medieval, modern, in the previous video, and we also discussed the questions from Indian geography in the previous video. In today's video we are going to see questions asked by UPSC in the world geography. Okay, so if you haven't seen the videos previously, go and see the videos. I have given the videos in the description box. Now we will start with the world geography today. In the region of eastern shore of Adriatic Sea, a cold and dry wind blowing down from the mountain is known as what? So here they are asking a question based on a local wind. So local winds are generally winds which are localized to particular region based on the regional climatic conditions. So we can identify a local wind with the two characteristics: one with the region, and second with the weather characteristics, whether it is hot or cold, or moist or dry. So here they have given a clue that it is blowing in the eastern shore of Adriatic Sea. Then it should be blowing in Europe. So then another clue is that it is a cold and dry wind. So these are all the true clues. From this clue we are identifying the answer as Bora. Okay, so Bora is the answer here, because Bora is the wind which is blowing from this from the Alps. So it starts in this particular region, it crosses the Carpathian mountains here, and it crosses the Alp here and reach this eastern shore of Adriatic Sea. So this is Adriatic Sea. So this is Adriatic Sea, and it is coming in the eastern shore of Adriatic Sea. This Bora, after crossing the Adriatic Sea, will pick up moisture from Adriatic Sea, and it will hit the Italian eastern coast and provide precipitation in this region. So eastern coast of Italy receives precipitation through Bora. So the next is another wind which they have given in the option is Mistral. So Mistral is a northwesterly wind. If you could see, Bora is a northeasterly wind, Mistral is a northwesterly wind. It is also cold wind. It is flowing from the Rhine Valley. So this is the Rhine Valley here. It crosses the Rhine Valley and it is very cold, and it overcomes the Alp and reaches this Gulf of Lion. So this is the Gulf of Lion region. So Fohn is a northwesterly wind which is a cold, Mistral is a northwesterly wind which is a cold wind. So that is one thing. The next wind which is found in the European region is Fohn. So Fohn is a type of Chinook. So we all know Chinook is a wind which is generally moist. When it ascends in the ascending part, the temperature of the air mass reduces and it forms clouds and it rains. When it reaches the peak, it becomes dry and flows as a dry hot wind. So this is a Chinook. It is also called a snow eater. And this form of another form of Chinook, which is this generally Chinook prevails in the Rockies mountains in the United States. Another form, European version of Chinook, is Fohn. This Fohn crosses the Alps and it reaches the Switzerland. It reaches the Switzerland region as dry and hot wind. When it reaches the Switzerland, it melts all the snow in Switzerland and it provides the it provides a snow-free area. So it comes as a relief in the winter season. So Fohn is a dry wind. And you also know there is another wind called Sirocco. Sirocco generally starts from Sahara, crosses the Mediterranean Sea and reaches the western coast of Italy. So Sirocco provides the precipitation in the western coast of Italy, but Bora provides the precipitation in the eastern coast of Italy. So that is the difference. Sirocco is also called as blood rains because it takes the mud from Sahara, it takes moisture from Mediterranean Sea, that both mud and moisture mixes together, and when it precipitates in Italy, the rain comes in the form of a muddy rain. So it is also called as blood rain, since it damages the infrastructure and crops present there. So that is one thing. These are all the other minor winds given there. You just have a note of all the winds. So generally, with respect, when you are studying the local winds, generally try to study the major local winds, not all local winds. There are more than hundreds of local winds. So study major local winds of each continent. From each continent, study only the major ones, not the minor ones. With respect to Europe, you can study Mistral, Fohn, Sirocco and Bora. And with respect to US, you can study the blizzard and Chinook. So likewise study just the major ones. And another thing which you have to be very clear is whether it is hot or cold. Okay, so that is another characteristic which you have to be very clear of. So the next question, geomorphic factors influencing the plant and animal distributions are. So which are all the geomorphic factors which are influencing the distribution of flora and fauna? Okay, the distribution of flora and fauna is majorly determined by these three aspects: slope angle, slope aspect and relief of the region. So C is the answer. Let us see what is the slope angle and slope aspect. So slope is the steepness or degree of inclination of a surface. We all know. So slope is the degree of inclination. This is a moderate slope. This is a steep slope. The slopes are like this. It is a steep, and this is very less slope. So it is nothing but the degree of steepness. So the angle made by the slope with the ground is called as the definition of the slope. Aspect is nothing but the direction which the slope faces. In which direction this slope faces. So that is the aspect. For example, if you take Western Ghats, so Western Ghats is a mountain range which stretches in the north to south direction, but the aspect of Western Ghats is either western or eastern. So the range moves from north to south, but the aspect is it is either facing the western direction or it is facing the eastern direction. So that is the aspect. And relief is the generally the relief consists of two things. One is the altitude. What is the topmost altitude of the mountain peak? So that is one aspect of relief. Another aspect of relief is the soil type found. So these are all the characteristics of relief. So generally these are all the features which determine the flora and fauna. For example, if the slope is very steep, you will be having very thin layer of soil. If you are having thin layer of soil, then you will be having those kind of vegetation which can grow in the thin region. If the slope is very flat like this, then you will be having thick layer of soil. In thick layer of soil, you will be having very dense vegetation. So again, if the slope is very steep, generally animals won't live there. But if the slope is less steep, then the animals will live there. So slope plays a very important role. Aspect also plays a very important role. In which direction the slope faces, that is aspect. For example, if you could see in Himalayas flows in the east and west direction. So the two aspects of Himalaya is the southern facing slopes and northern facing slope. Generally the southern facing slopes are open to sun rays, because sun at the max it comes over the Tropic of Cancer. It never crosses the Tropic of Cancer, we all know. So let us take this. This is Himalayas. This is the northern slopes and this is the southern slope. And we are having Tropic of Cancer here. The sun maximum reaches the Tropic of Cancer and it is never overhead of the Himalayas. So always the southern slopes of Himalayas are exposed to sun, and northern slopes of Himalayas are not exposed to direct exposure of sun. They are just exposed to the reflected rays. So the southern slope is highly rich in vegetation, whereas the northern slope is very dormant and very cold. So and hence aspect also plays a very important region. If you could see in Western Ghats, what will happen? In Western Ghats, the western side of the Western Ghats is the rain facing side or the rainy side, or on the eastern side of the Western Ghats is the rain shadow side. This side this western side is very rich in vegetation, and the rain shadow side is very dry in vegetation. So hence aspect also plays an important role. And you know, altitude determines the type of vegetation, whether it is alpine, whether it is taiga or tundra. It is determined by the altitude, and soil type also plays a major role in vegetation and animal distribution. So all the three aspects will play an important role. So the difference between C and D is, here they have given an option called relative relief. So relief is the general term. Relative relief is just a type of it. So no need to go that deep into that. So it is very simple: slope angle, slope aspect, and relief. So we'll see the next question. Which of the following are the warm ocean currents? So they are asking for warm ocean currents. Kuroshio is warm, but California current is a cold current. North Atlantic drift is warm, and Brazilian current is also warm. So B is the answer. Canaries is cold, and Beniguela is also cold current. It is in the northern, it is in the southern hemisphere. West wind drift and Falkland current both are cold current. So B is the answer. So these are all the ocean currents given. Generally, when you are studying ocean currents, you have to remember a few aspects. The first thing is you have to remember in which gyre it is present. So gyre is nothing but the one circulation in a particular ocean. For example, North Equatorial Current, Gulf Stream, North Atlantic Drift, and Canary. So this forms a gyre. This is also called as Columbus gyre. So this is a gyre here, and this is a gyre here. So this circulation is called as gyre. In this gyre, you have to identify, whenever you are studying ocean current, you have to identify whether that ocean current is in which gyre. So first study the gyre. Second, study whether it is hot or cold, or warm or cold current. So warm or cold, identifying which is warm current and cold current is very important, that you have to remember. If it is flowing from the equator to poles, then it is warm. When it is coming from pole to equator, then it is called as cold. So that is one thing. If you could see here, Gulf Stream is warm, California is cold, Brazil is warm, North Atlantic Drift is extension of Gulf Stream, so it is warm, and then Canary is cold and Venezuela is cold. Okay, so answer is B. So these are all the two things which you have to remember. And the third aspect which you have to remember is what is the impact of this ocean current in the climate of the region. So impact of North Atlantic Drift in the European region is that it melts the ice in this region and makes the ports accessible. So that is the speciality of North Atlantic Drift. So likewise you have to understand the impact of that ocean current in particular climatic region. So these are all the three aspects which you have to study with respect to ocean currents, and knowing which is warm and cold is also very important. Here Kuroshio is also warm. So the answer is North Atlantic Drift and Brazilian current. So the next question. In this question they have asked about the trimeridional circulation. There are three cells in the trimeridional circulation, you know. It is Hadley cell, Ferrel cell and polar cell. So but the question here is from the Hadley cells of circulation. In Hadley cell of thermal circulation, air rises up and finally descends at which zone? The air which rises in the Hadley cell descends at the subtropical high pressure belt. So C is the answer. So Hadley cell starts in the equator and it submerges in the subtropical high. So it starts in equator and it descends in the subtropical high and comes back to equator in the form of trade winds. So this is the Hadley cell. So this is actually the side view of the trimeridional circulation. The air rising in the equator, in the equatorial low, will reach the atmosphere. Once it reaches the tropopause, it becomes heavy and cold and heavy, and hence it starts to descend. The descending of the air is impacted by two aspects. One is the density, another one is the Coriolis force. So this air descends at the subtropical high at the 30° latitude. So this is subtropical high. So it descends at the subtropical high. In this region we are having subtropical jet stream. Between Ferrel cell and polar cell we are having the westerly jet stream. So you just study the Ferrel cell. So Ferrel cell again, Ferrel cell and polar cell both start from the subpolar low, and the polar cell descends at the pole, and Ferrel cell descends again at the subtropical high. This thing you have to be very clear of and be clear with this. And you all know equatorial low and polar high is thermally induced pressure belts. Thermally induced pressure belts, and these two, and subtropical high and subpolar low. Subpolar low and subtropical high are dynamically induced based on the subsidence and the ascendance. Ascendance of air here leads to subpolar low, and subsidence of air here leads to subtropical high. Okay. So the next question. So the next question is from the human geography side. Which one of the following is not a type of commercial agriculture? So the distance. So agricultural. Generally, the agriculture is characterized into two. One is subsistence and other is commercial. Subsistence and commercial. So in subsistence agriculture, they are generally labor intensive, and they are all the produce whichever they produce is consumed by the producers themselves for their own consumption, and there is very less marketable surplus. Whereas in commercial agriculture, the produce which is being produced is sold in the market for commercial purposes. Generally, they are capital intensive. Mechanized commercial agriculture. So dairy farming is a part of commercial agriculture. Grain farming is also commercial agriculture. Livestock ranching is also commercial part. Intensive subsistence. So the name itself is given as subsistence here. So if the name is subsistence is given, then it is not commercial. So in subsistence agriculture is of two types. One is primitive subsistence. Another one is intensive subsistence. Then we are having extensive farming. So this extensive farming is grain farming here, which is given here. So grain farming is extensive farming where they will be using mechanized tools. It is highly capital intensive, low labors. Generally the production is very high. Okay. So labor productivity is also very high. With respect to subsistence agriculture, the primitive agriculture is also called as slash and burn agriculture, that is primitive subsistence. In intensified subsistence is what we are following in India. In intensified subsistence, there will be small pocket of land but large number of laborers. So it will be having the disguised unemployment. So generally it is labor intensive and labor productivity is very low. Because of disguised unemployment, the labor productivity is very low. Okay. In extensive farming or grain farming, the labor productivity is very high, but in intensive subsistence farming, labor productivity is very low. So that is the difference here. Okay, D is the answer. The next question. The major part of Central Asia is dominated by which of the following language families? So generally, the Central Asian part is dominated by Altaic language family. So if you could see the map here, so this is the language map which is given. This green area is Indo-European. This Indo-European languages, this Indo-European language family, like for example in India, Sanskrit, Hindi, Punjabi, all these languages are Indo-European languages. This Indo-European languages is dominated in the entire European region and northern and northwestern India. But the question here they are asking is Central India. So, sorry, Central Asia. In Central Asia, this Turkic, Mongolic and Koreanic, Japanic language is only playing a major role. So, Altaic language consists of many subparts. So, for one subpart is Turkic, another subpart is Mongolic, another subpart is Japanoic and Koreanoic. So, these all four together is called as Altaic. Turkic, Mongolic, Koreanic and Japanoic, it is called as Altaic language, and this plays a major dominant role in Central Asia. So, below the second most dominant language in the Asian region is Sino-Tibetan, and the third dominant language is Indo-European, which is found in India, Iran, Pakistan and other region. Okay, if you could see here, entire north and northwest India is dominated by Indo-European language, that is Sanskrit, Hindi, those languages, and southern part is dominated by Dravidian languages, that is from Tamil, Malayalam, Telugu and Kannada. So these four languages here. Okay, Austroic languages are generally found in the Southeast Asia. So this is Austroic language. So the answer, major part, which language plays a dominant role if they are asking with respect to Asia in general. If they are asking in general Asia, then the answer is Indo-European, because Indo-European is dominating Russia and Southern Asia. But if they are asking Central Asia, then it is Altaic. Okay, so you have to be very clear. So Altaic languages has four categories: Turkic, Mongoloic, Koreanic and Japanoic. So it is Altaic is the answer. Thank you friends. Today we saw the questions asked by UPSC in the world geography. So already I have discussed the questions which UPSC asked in the history, ancient, medieval, modern and the Indian geography in the previous videos. If you haven't seen those videos, please go and have a look. So soon we'll see in the next video. Thank you. Stay home, stay safe. Together we will win this crisis.